Right guys, so we're going to do a video today on blood work. What does a 325 IFBB Pro's blood work look like? So you're going to see this in its complete entirety. Sam is going to put it somewhere around here, and I'm just going to talk through it. But before I get into it, blood work is massively important if you're a PD user. Obviously it tracks your health markers, and at the end of the day, everything we do comes at a risk, comes at a cost, and whatever you choose to do within the parameters of use, it's a risk-reward ratio. So what I want you to bear in mind, and this isn't me making excuses ahead of time, but I want you to bear in mind is my risk to reward ratio is probably very different from yours. I am a pro. While I do not make a living out of this, I certainly make an income from it. So I have that to consider. And it's something that obviously I've been invested in, seriously, 100% all in for over a decade. So that's something, again, just to kind of be aware of when we go through this. The other thing that I want to mention is blood work is a reference point. Now, obviously, you'll see some red markers on this, and whatever test you use, it may come up as red, green, whatever. While, yes, we want everything to be in range, it is a reference because, for example, there are certain markers in here that I have tested pre-use that were high already. So everyone is going to have some variability within. So where I look, how I use blood work is, first of all, I want as much in range as possible, obviously. But the next thing I look at is, are my markers across a sequence of blood works getting better or getting worse? If things look like they're consistently getting worse, then regardless of ranges, it should probably be looked into in more detail. So that's kind of the preface of it. With my blood work, I'll be honest, I get it done down at my sponsor Strom. They run something called the Henge Project. If anyone is interested, I highly recommend it, because not only do you get your blood work done on site, but you also get Aaron, who is their resident doctor, to have a look through it and give feedback. Now, Aaron's feedback on mine, well, Aaron's email to me, bearing in mind we have a slightly closer relationship, was simply wonderful results. So obviously I was excited to look at them and happy with them. So we start off with the full blood count. Big ones for PD users that are often elevated are going to be hemoglobin and hematocrit. My hemoglobin is 1 point over where it should, so very, very close to normal there. And my hematocrit's in range. Everything else in the blood count is good. If your white blood cells are off, sometimes that can suggest some sort of like viral infection, or kind of being a bit sick or poorly, or even, you may find in the near future, you might get sick or poorly if they're out of range. Now, hemoglobin and hematocrit, a big thing that's helped me keep that in range. And I'm not going to just harp on about kind of supplements and how wonderful my sponsor are, but the long and the short of it is, I'm sponsored by Strom because of their health products, because they give me, and they have given me, a longevity aspect to my bodybuilding. So I use something called Thrombomax, which is really, really beneficial with regards to that. And I truly believe, because I haven't bloodlet for a while. And the reason for that is, while bloodletting will help reduce those, your body will then likely just kind of respond by getting levels back up to where they were anyway. So we want to find a way of sort of mediating them. Thrombomax seems to be working really well. Next up, we just have the kind of biochem section. So total protein, sometimes that'll be on the high side. This is in range. HbA1c, which is the kind of diabetes marker, so well in the kind of non-diabetic range. So that's a long-term picture of things. That's quite a good one. Obviously, if you're in an off-season setting, you're pounding a load of food, your insulin sensitivity could get impacted. So we don't want to see that kind of consistently getting higher and higher, because that is not going to be kind of good for how well you process the food. Now, bearing in mind, and I know I haven't talked much about my personal drug use, but I do use both long and fast-acting insulin while my carbs my carbs have been 800 grams plus for at least 6 months. So that shows that those drugs are really kind of helping effectively, as ironic as it sounds, not only with the benefits they offer from a kind of bodybuilding point of view, but also keeping me a bit healthier. Less pressure on kind of my pancreas, and obviously a better HbA1c reading. Iron is all in range. Now, off the top of my head, my last test, my iron was a little bit low, so I'm happy to see that in a better place. What I did off the back of that was quite simple. I just started eating a bit more red meat. So there are some things that we can just kind of adapt via diet. Kidney function, always one that is a little bit more nerve-wracking, because kidneys do not repair. The liver, for example, is a very self-repairing organ. Kidneys, once you get kidney damage, you're not going to get that back. So that is one that I would highlight to people to be very conscious of. I can sit here quite smugly and say my reading is fantastic. Generally, that has been the case throughout my use. So, that's going to be a combination of managing blood pressure and just managing general health. Now, liver function. This is one where, as I highlighted earlier, as a reference, doesn't look good. ALT 147, it should be a lot below 50. Now, a lot of people, and like I've got a lot of clients who I look at their blood work, my ALT is consistently higher than pretty much anyone's. It's been that way since before I used drugs. I don't know why. I've never had any liver issues. I did get concerned after a period of time, thinking like, why is this not coming down? I take my liver supplements, I take my Support Max, I take my Tudka, I take my Glutathione Max. So I'm being proactive with it, but my ALT just appears to run high. Now, training and inflammation can affect that. Training inflammation included. This test was done after 2 days rest. So potentially after a week, 10 days rest, that ALT may come down, like just through, lack of inflammation, lack of training stress. Also, potentially kind of high protein diet could impact that. Again, I'm not making excuses. For some, that might be cause for concern. For me, with my references, with my risk to reward ratio, providing I know that I am acting upon it from a supplementation point of view, and it isn't getting drastically worse, and it's not. In fact, this is a little bit better than last time, even though it's still high. And then all my other liver readings are in line. So again, I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying I'm particularly happy with it, but I am saying that it is a consistent irregularity within my personal blood work. We then have cholesterol, which for a lot of guys will be quite skewed. I'm really, really happy with this set of cholesterol readings. The only thing that is low is HDL, good cholesterol, again, severely impacted by PED use. The advice Aaron gave me was potentially increase my healthy fats. And I'll agree with that, because generally I do run and I do favour a lower fat diet. Now, the fats I have within the diet are healthy. I don't really eat too much processed shit, period, but they are on the low side. So off the back of this, I have actually increased my oily fish intake and my olive oil intake. We'll see if it makes a difference. Off the back of last time, I think last time it was a touch better, but like 0.7 maybe, whereas this time it's 0.68. All other lipid readings are in range, which is I'm really happy with, because in the past they have been a little bit more skewed than that. Hormones. Now, sex hormones, I'm only really personally interested in estrogen and testosterone. Again, risk reward, what you want out of life. Me and my partner have discussed in length. We don't want kids. I don't want kids. And, there are plenty of guys out there who absolutely smash PDs, who can still have kids. It's not really a consideration that I've ever had to take into account. So we're looking at the kind of estrogen and testosterone and just seeing where that lies. With what I am currently taking, bearing in mind this was taken during a cruise, but please bear in mind as well, I'm an IFBB pro. My cruises are higher than maybe a general cruise and certainly than a TRT. So testosterone 43.9, sorry. Not a huge amount above range, but above range. Estrogen is also above range. I used to shit my pants about estrogen, and I'm sure there are plenty of guys out there who hear estrogen and they think, oh my God, that's like such a bad hormone. I don't want to be a woman. I don't want to get bitch tits. Estrogen is a very healthy hormone. Look at the benefits of estrogen. They are vast, from general health to even kind of hypertrophy. The only problem the only time estrogen becomes a problem is if you get side effects. So if you get a buildup of gyno, and then you need to look at kind of ways of lowering that. The problem with lowering estrogen is it will often take something like an Arimidex or an Aromasin, and they will hammer your lipids. So the best thing you could do really is try and mediate whatever you're taking. You know, if your testosterone intake is high, potentially reduce that. Less testosterone going in, less estrogen produced. But with what I'm taking, these very much fall in line with that, which again is a nice thing because it suggests that what I'm taking is legit. Thyroid function all good, and then PSA is in range also. So, like I said, this is a nice conclusive summary that I'm in a good place. Taken in week 7 of my cruise. Now again, this is a separate topic, but when is the best time to take blood work? Mid-cycle, when it's at its worst, in your cruise when it should be at its best. I've done both. Realistically, you can make an argument for either. You know, if you take it when it's worse, you can see how bad things are. But then at the same time, let's be honest, if you're in this, you're probably just going to look at it and go, nah, that's because I'm on cycle, so I'm just going to carry on anyway. Or unless it's towards the end of the cycle, you might say, oh, I'll like cut back. I've done that in the past. I've done it at like week 16 with the intention of pushing for 20 weeks, got my blood work and thought, I'll call it now. So, you know, yes, this should be pretty good, but to actually see it really good is nice. It's nice. You know, like I said, I've been competing for 12 years, so to still have all health markers relatively intact with continued use is a positive in my book. You know, I'm not naive to the fact that everything comes at a cost and everything is a risk, but it's my personal risk. So hopefully that gives you guys an insight into my thought process behind things. You know, with regards to blood work, if you're getting it done, if you don't have a coach who can interpret blood work, then I would reach out especially to a company called Eval, which is run by Dave Crossland, because even if they do their own blood work service, but they also do a blood work kind of consult. So you can send your blood work to Dave, pay a fee, and he can then give you a breakdown of that. So kind of explain why things might be like that, what you can do to counteract them, etc. So very useful service from him. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. Hopefully you guys found it interesting, a little bit different, but certainly an important thing to highlight, because you really should be taking your blood work if you take PEDs, and then you should be acting upon that with supplementation, with, you know, usage variants, etc. You know, please don't be one of those who looks at their blood work, gets it back, there are things in the red, and you kind of just ignore it. At least accept and look at ways of improving them, and hopefully you can have a long and healthy career and time in the sport like me, and still be loving it and still be feeling great. So I'll leave you there. Thank you very much for listening to my waffle. Hope it was of some help. Like, comment, subscribe. Any questions at all, hit me up. Thank you very much, guys.